carve my name inside the concrete, I pray it forever.
Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose. Freedom, freedom, where are you? 'Cause I need freedom too. I break chains all by myself. Won't let my freedom rot in hell. Hey, I'ma keep on running 'cause the winner don't quit on themselves.
Is it true? You see, I'll finally get me.
I had my ups and downs, but I always find the inner strength to pull myself up. I was serving lemons, but I made lemonade.
Mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, there's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Yeah. Father, we don't need to escalate. You see, war is not the answer, for only love can conquer hate. You know we've got to find a way to bring some love in here today. Oh, picket lines and picket signs. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Right on. Hey man, what's your name? Right on. Right on. Right on. Everything. Everybody thinks we're wrong. Oh, but who are they to judge us? Simply cause our hair is long. Oh, you know we've got to find a way. Bring some understanding here today. Picket lines and picket signs. Don't punish me with brutality. Come on, talk to me. You can see what's going on. Yeah, what's going on? Tell me what's going on.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job.
Tell me why. Why can't we live together? Tell me why. Why can't we live together? Everybody wants to live together. Why can't we live together?
Hello, all you melanated beauties. Sun-kissed by God's lips. This is Coy with your black tea sip. I'm sipping power to pour you the truth. Go grab your cup. Let's fill it up.
Welcome, greetings, sun-kissed beauties. Sun-kissed by God's lips. This is your girl Coy with the black tea sip. Okay, all right. It's a lot that has happened in the world, especially in the black world. It's been so much that's been going on. It's been a lot that's been going on for people of color, minorities, non-minorities. It's just stuff is happening. It's happening to us. It's happening for us. It's just happening. You know, we started many years ago having real conversations about race, having conversations about race and racism, and starting to call out, point out, display racist. We started doing that in the world of social media because we didn't have another way to go. You know, the protests where they used to march and do the sit-ins was not really available to us, right? I mean, we tried it, but it didn't quite work for us in the same way that it had worked for, you know, our mothers and our grandmothers, our fathers and grandfathers. And so we took to social media. We took to social media with Trayvon, with just going to get a Skittles and a tea during the intermission of the NBA game. We took to social media for Tamir, who was gunned down within 3 seconds of the police arrival. And I told you last week that the police officer who was ultimately fired from the police force for the murder of young Tamir at 12 years old was trying to play football. I mean, like we still are being revisited by these haunting images of racist. But something has happened. Something has happened that people are having real conversations. That something happened on my birthday last year, May 25th. George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin, or who cares, really. And so now they're picking his jury. And he doesn't want the 3rd-degree murder charge. And we are saying, oh, no, you need to include that. We need 2nd-degree murder. We need 3rd-degree murder. And we're questioning why there's not 1st-degree murder, because something is happening in the world since George Floyd. There has been an acknowledgement of racism, a calling out of racists, a Me Too movement to call out bigotry. We've had that happen to us, for us, because of us, despite us, you know. And it hasn't quite been hijacked like the Me Too movement. Not yet. Not yet. Somebody found a way to get them something off of it, some comeuppance, some kudos, and guess what'll happen? They'll hijack this from us too. But here's the thing. We've got people that are falling out. We've got folks that are unhappy with people they thought were their friends, just as Sheryle Underwood. You know, we got all these things that are going on, you know, and so because of that, we've started to have conversations at work and with our friends, and we're having real conversations about, and not so real, because let's keep it 100. That's what we do on this show, right? We sip power to pour truth. We keep it 100. And so the truth of the matter is that what is happening in the United States and around the world is transformative. But transformative for whom? Is it transformative for black people that are looking for a job when companies are saying that they're going to do a better job? Is it transformative for bigots and racists, white supremacists? Is it transformative for legislation and the judiciary? Who exactly is it transformative for? We're going to examine all that and more today on the Black Tea Sip. We are going to talk about the many things that are going on in the United States, in the world, and right here at home in the great state of Texas. And I'm still using the words great state of Texas, even though Governor Hot Wheels has made a mockery of us. We talked about it last week. I'm sure it'll come up again, because who doesn't have to talk about foolishness? Well, certainly we call out, point out, and say out loud all the things that are going on in the world. So let's start with the fact that all over Yes, all over the United States, people were talking about police reform. We went from defunding the police to what police reform looks like to having people show up when their mental health crisis and who needs to come and go. And well, okay, the city of Fort Worth, okay, I'm right here in Texas, so Fort Worth, Texas, just graduated a civilian class of police responders. They're going to have, these little SUVs that say citizen response on the side. It's not going to be as menacing as the police department. And it is an experiment, if you will, of what is going to happen. So they're graduating. Well, they've graduated because it was at 9 o'clock this morning. And these people are going to be employed by the police department from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. So do not need them Saturday and Sunday because nobody's going to show up. The police going to show up. That's who's going to show up. So now we have North Richland Hills, who's doing something very similar, and Carrollton has a similar program. I don't know where Dallas is. Where you at, Dallas? Where you at? So what gets me, what has sparked my attention, is that the defunding of the police has not happened, right? Hasn't happened. However, what has happened is they started putting everyday people through some form of police school, and now they're putting them on the streets. And the lady that they interviewed had been an Amazon worker in the warehouse. And now she gets a patrol car and she's going out because she wants to help people. Well, that's commendable. But what I am curious about is that these people don't have training as far relative to psychiatric training and how really that background. Because what should be happening is people should be, they should be working alongside mental health professionals, right? And people who understand addiction, right? But I mean, we got to start somewhere. But then they say, well, this is an experiment. Why not experiment in a way where we actually have tangible evidence and people who are aware of the data of how to deal with people when they have things other than just a crime? Because the police has dealt with a lot. And the way we got here, the way we were ushered into this newfound way of doing things was because racism in the police department was called out. It was called out. And so then you had to take a good hard look at what racism was really all about. How is it identified? What do we do with it when we see it? Who calls it out? Who stops it? Is it stopped at all? Do you just go on? Well, as black people and minorities, we know you just go on. You don't really have a mechanism or a way to actually say, these are the things that are happening to me and you're being a racist. I mean, you can say it, but, nobody really cares. And when you say it, they all seem to say, well, I'm not racist. And so when we say we're not racist, then what are they actually saying? They're saying, look, I don't think I'm a racist. That's what they're saying, right? And so we've got South Lake Carroll. If you're here locally, you know all about this school. Kids are being videoed and it's going viral. So a few years ago, we had these South Lake Carroll kids, right? So Angela, let's get this video for people to see. The South Lake Carroll kids were singing a song, and the little girl said that, oh my God, I can say nigga again. And so they just, they're talking and they bleep it out, and they've since blurred the kids' faces because we have to protect them, right? We have to protect the kids that are racist. So here's the video.
Hey,
Oh my God! Yes, I can say more.
Yeah, this video is going viral today, showing a South Lake Carroll student repeatedly using the N-word. A spokeswoman for the South Lake Carroll School District says the student will be punished. A similar video surfaced in South Lake just months ago. Those students, we are told, were punished as well.
So I'm going to have Eric Ransom, who is on the board of CCAP, And he's going to talk to us about this because here's the deal. Singing a song and saying the N-word doesn't seem to resonate as being racist, right? Because black people say it. And so with that, you have parents that are saying, wait a minute, this is enough. But this is the part you don't know. You don't really realize that this has always been a problem in South Lake Carroll. So I've got Eric Ransom on the phone. He's on the board of CCAP. Eric, are you there?
Hey, Coy, I'm here. How are you, darling?
I'm doing very well, brother. So I know that you all had a meeting. Let's talk very briefly. What does CCAP stand for?
So CCAP is the Cultural Competence Plan Action Plan for South Lake School District, is what it was proposed to be. And, of course, it was quickly knocked down when it was presented to the board. Now, mind you, this was a plan that we were asked to create for the district on behalf of the school board by a committee designed to address these issues originating from the video of racial slurs back in October of 2018.
Right. So I know this happened a few years ago. And you had some kids, and one in particular, and she was so glad that she could use, we say the N-word, but to me, it's I don't know who we're taking the sting out of it for. Are we taking the sting out of it for the people that use it against us? Because, we're saying the N-word, but she was saying I can say nigger. And she didn't say nigga, because there is a difference. She said nigger. And so when you all get the word and you're saying, listen, this is a problem, but you're not saying it's a problem just from 2018 because there have been other things that had happened in South Lake Carroll, correct?
Absolutely. So here's the problem. This is what I say to anyone. In fact, Senator West just addressed that same thing. For all the parents that go into that school board meetings every month and then say, hey, well, this is just an isolated incident. This is not an isolated incident. These incidents have been going on in that school district since 1980s, the 90s. Early 2000s, and as recently as 2 weeks ago. And so the problem is that the issues have not been resolved. They have not been addressed. Parents have years after years approached the school board about it. I myself have been very active in the community since we moved there in 2012 and served in various capacities, from working on planning and zoning, board of adjustment, school board advisory. I mean, you name it, I've been there. And I tried to work with the city and the school district proactively before we even had any of these issues and said, hey, let's address some things on diversity and inclusion so that if we have an incident that comes up in South Lake, we will know how to handle it. We'll have a task force in place and so forth. And it was kicked around and kicked around and kicked around until that incident happened. And I went back to them and demanded. And that's how we created the diversity council, and I served as co-chair along with Pam Francis, and we began to fight to put this thing in place, only for the board, who asked us to do it, to not support it when it was presented. And
I'm glad glad you brought that up, because let's talk about why you feel that the very entity that asked you to give them some teeth in diversity and inclusion, right? Because that's the only reason they come to you and they form a board. They want some teeth around the issue, right? And then after you do the work, they say, well, wait a minute, hold up. So why do you think that happened?
I think that with good intentions, there were a few people on that board that had a good heart and wanted to see that done. And I'm going to tell you, they pushed to have it done. I know they did because I worked alongside with them. But there's also a few on that board that didn't, which they are supported and funded by a small, powerful group of right, extreme, conservative Republicans in South Lake. And they put their money up and filed a lawsuit against the school board and everything else to stop that plan.
And they lost the lawsuit, right? They lost in court.
No. The lawsuit's right now is in mediation.
Oh, it's in mediation. Okay.
It's in mediation as we speak. They were able to get restraining orders to have the CCAP stop. We had to stop working on it. Let me just tell you how serious this got in South Lake, by the way. I lived in that city for all those years, praised, asked to run for city council, asked to run on the school board. But when I started fighting for equality and rights for my children is when the true colors came out in that city. And see what it said to me was, hey, you can be black and live in South Lake, and you can be on our committees and everything else, but you got to think like we think 100. I had one guy tell me I couldn't be a Mitt Romney conservative.
He told you what?
I couldn't be a Mitt Romney conservative.
Oh.
And I had parents tell me they didn't want their blue-eyed, blonde-haired kids discriminated against. I said, oh, but mine are okay to be discriminated against.
So I think in full transparency, you have a son and a daughter, and you've been in South Lake Carroll for it's 21, so almost 10 years, right? So you're not new to the community.
It's the only school district our kids have ever attended, except Caleb attended one semester in Frisco when he was in kindergarten. Ever since then, he's in 8th grade now. Chloe's in 6th grade. And they have been in that school system. We've been very active. I don't think you can be African-American and live in an all-white city and not be active.
I agree.
And we have always been active and respected. And I tell you, we lost a lot of friends. We lost a lot of friends, but we gained a lot of friends.
Yeah.
And I tell you, there's nothing I wouldn't do any different, Coy. I would go back. I would fight for those kids because there is absolutely, under no circumstances, should any kid, I don't care if they're black, white, Hispanic, Native American, whatever they are, you shouldn't have to go to school and be bullied, discriminated against, harassed, ridiculed, and anything else. Let me mind you and tell you something else. This is not about a video about kids talking racial. You had teachers in that district acting a damn fool.
Well,
now, do I need to repeat that?
No, and see, I'm quite aware, and I know that you're aware that we've got a whole situation in Plano with a little boy who was at a sleepover and was forced to drink urine and was beat and kicked. But, I think you raised a very valuable point that this is not just about some kids acting out. This is about the culture of racism that are in these independent school districts. And the fact that you have a lot of parents that don't have the zealousness, the fight, the spirit that you have. You have some parents that are completely overwhelmed and really don't know what to do and how to do, because when they ask for help, as you have done, they didn't get it. Now, you're a different breed. You're Oak Cliff boy. You're a different breed. You decided, no, I'm going to do something about it. So you formed CCAP, and you developed policy. And then a group of people decide that their children are going to be impacted, which is really ridiculous, because racism can only be acted out by the people that have the power. And the children that are in a minority in the school district are certainly not going to have the power, right? So it's a ridiculous on its face.
Let me tell you how bad. Let me tell you how bad it got. So here's the thing. At the time that we're doing this, we're 2.5, 3 years in this thing when this thing rolled out. So last October, around October 20, we had a lot of things going on. We had just lost my father-in-law. My mother-in-law was very sick and passed away. And
I remember.
At the same time, the day my mother-in-law passed away, I was getting death threats.
What? I'm going to do the Oprah.
Oh, yeah.
What?
I was getting death threats. People were telling me, you're going to reap what you sow, and you're not gonna live long, and blah 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 blah, and you're making trouble about Blake, and blah blah. I said, no, I'm not making trouble. I'm making people aware of what reality is.
Yeah.
And until everyone here sees that there is something that needed to be done that's going to protect every child, I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. I will not stop. I will not stop. So my point is, this is 2021, and anybody with any brain of any size, whether it's a Fortune 500 or 1,000 company, whatever you want to say, everybody has a plan of diversity and inclusion. But I'm going to tell you something where it gets on a bigger perspective. When you think about where we were politically in this country for 4 years prior, and we had a president who took all of diversity and inclusion, nothing to do within the federal government, he gave these people power. He gave this small group of people a voice. And let me tell you, when you create a monster,
that's right.
You don't create that monster overnight. That monster's been creating. It's been there. Mm-hmm. It's just coming out.
Right.
It's just coming out. But I tell you what, we got to stand in the black community. They got the right one.
They got the right one on the right day.
If somebody tell you got the right one, it ain't what you think it is.
Okay. No, you're right. I mean, I think that we are, and Kathy Craig said, why are we still fighting to be included? So let me ask you this, because I know you're going to give me an honest answer. When we start to deal with these issues with our children in the schools, why are we putting our children in schools where they're the minority and the possibility of ridicule exists? Why are we exposing our children?
I can answer that question, Coy. One of the biggest things we have a debate about in my household. My wife and I don't argue very often. I'm not saying we have a perfect marriage, but I'm gonna tell you we have serious debates on.
No, it's pretty perfect. I know your wife; she's my friend. It's pretty perfect.
Absolutely, and let me tell you, amongst other friends that we have that are black that live in majority white areas, one of the reasons is that when we decided that we were having kids, we try to decide where we're going to live, where there are exemplary school districts, where we did not have to be forced to pay for private school, okay? Mm-hmm. Well, when we looked at the map, there was only 2 exemplary districts at the time. Well, there was 3, and then they fell off. Frisco was on there, but then they fell off.
They fell off.
It was Highland Park, and it was South Lake. Well, we figured South Lake had a little more diversity than Highland Park.
Right.
And not only at Highland Park, our housing budget was going to allow us to have a 1,500 square foot 1928 cottage. So I said, South Lake it is. And guess what? We shouldn't have, let me tell you this, Coy. You should be able to live in any community that you want to live in.
I agree.
And not worry about your kids going to school being discriminated against.
I agree.
I don't care if you black, white, Mexican, whatever. You should be able to go live in any community where you paying taxes. You are providing a productive citizen in the community. You're volunteering. Let me just tell you this. Let me tell you something I've learned throughout this whole ordeal. You know, they tell you, hey, listen, you know, you need to protest peacefully. Well, you know what that means? Don't protest at all. Because even when you protest peacefully,
right,
you're still causing problems.
Right.
And when you walking back and forth into a school board every month, having meetings with each individual school board member, having meetings with the opposition, I sat down at the table, eye to eye, went toe-to-toe with these guys. Let's figure out a way. Let's go through this plan. Let's dissect it. What can you guys live with? What can we live with? We can give on this. We can't give on this. They said to me, hey, Eric, I like the progress you made. They sent me text messages. Oh, my God, Eric, I really enjoyed meeting with you. I'd like to meet you. We're going to get this done. And when their buddies found out about it, that they were actually in talks with me, that's when all hell broke loose. Mm-hmm. You mean you're having a talk with this guy, this troublemaker? Mm-hmm. You mean you're going to actually consider a CCAP plan that's going to ruin our kids' life? And everything they were saying about that plan, Coy, was not true. None of what they were saying was true.
Well, let's talk about what's actually in the plan that they are saying is not true.
They said that the kids were going to be required to take black cultural studies. It's not in the clue, in the plan.
It's not in the policy plan, right.
They said they didn't understand microaggressions. I said, look up the definition. Well, that's too broad. Well, then let's come up with something more specific. I even told them we would take the microaggressions out. They also said that, well, here's the one thing. I told them I would not waver on this. This was not off the table. There's no way. In that plan, we were to hire a diversity director or officer for the school district.
Right.
And they didn't want that. They said, well, why shouldn't we put that towards the teacher's salary? I said, well, you got police officers in every school, don't you?
Yeah.
They said, yeah. I said, okay, well, you can put that toward a teacher too, right? I said, my thing is that you will have, who doesn't have a diversity officer?
Right. In today's
time. In a
times.
district where it's full of racism.
Right. And the other thing is, I think that it's notable to mention that there has been allocated, and perhaps the number has changed, but the last time I read it, $1.4 million over 5 years to assist in this plan. Is that correct?
That was correct. But what they said was that we had spent the $1.5 million. And we had not. And not only that, that was just a budget that they were going to set aside. It wasn't necessarily going to cost that. Mm-hmm. So the fact of the matter is that, you know, listen, this district gets funding from the federal government and from the state, okay? Right. And therefore, they will find it to get it done. If you can build an $80 million stadium, you need to be able to come up with some money for this.
I agree with that.
You know, when you're going to put this, and let me tell you something, Coy, I want to make this very clear. This is not a conservative or a liberal issue. This is not a black or a white issue.
No, it's
this
a
is an
safety
issue.
issue.
Of humanity.
That's right.
This is just, it's as simple as that. And when I go home or when my kids come home, I don't want my kids coming home telling me stories. Now, I'm going to tell you the sad thing about it. My kids love that district. They love their friends. And all their friends love it.
Yeah.
And it's the parents that at odds. The kids, if we could just learn and observe by the children, we wouldn't be in this issue today.
I think it's
because my kids
think
love that place.
I think it's really, you know, here's the issue, because we do have two different issues, and I did bring up the little boy in Plano. This little boy in Plano, the mother had been complaining for a year about the bullying. But in the case of your children, Chloe and Caleb, they don't feel that from their friends in particular. I think that's important to say. What you are talking about is the overall culture within the district.
Yep.
You're talking about the fact that you don't want your
now, I would be remiss not to tell you this.
Okay.
I will tell you that even my family have experienced a few incidents, and let me give you a few incidents we've experienced in South Lake.
Please.
When we lived in our first neighborhood in South Lake, we bought a house in South Lake. We put $80,000 into a remodeling, improved the value, everything else. Now we productive citizens, right?
Right.
My oldest daughter comes over one day. They go to the community pool. She gets to the pool, and a white gentleman walks up to her and says, "Oh, this is a private pool." She says, "I'm very well aware." He said, "Okay." He says, "Well, do you have a pass to get in?" She says, "Yes, I do." He said, "Do you live in the neighborhood?" She said, "Yes." And what's with all the questions? He said, "Well, what's your address?"
Oh, no.
She called me. I went up to the pool. By the time I was getting there, he was pulling out. And that was best for him. And then one day, Sharon and I are at True Luck, walking outside. They'll spend $200 on a meal. And an older white gentleman, but mind you now, I got on a blazer, some jeans, some nice shoes.
Right.
And
you didn't have on no Air Force Ones, Eric, with your pants pulled down. That's what you want us to know.
Hey, look here. Let me just tell you. I'm looking like any professional you can see walking anywhere. And this white man walked up to me and said, hand me his keys, and said, "Oh, here's my keys for my car."
In a blazer.
In a blazer, dressed up. My wife's dressed up, by the way. In fact, they had pulled my Mercedes up to the door.
So that was intentional. He didn't make a mistake. That was intentional.
Oh, well, this is my point.
And he knew who you were.
There has been incidents that even my son Caleb was called the N-word by another kid who happened to be Indian. And when his dad and I sat down and talked with him and asked him why did he say it, he said, "Well, the other kids called me a stand-in." And so they said,
"I got you.
I'm a stand-in," and Caleb was an in.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay." So there have been incidents, but the kids have not experienced it to the point. Remember, my kids are also in junior high. By the time you get to high school is when it really gets bad. Because then you get kids that have identified with their sexuality. There are some that are gay and lesbian. There are some that wear their hijabs when they're a Muslim. All these different things. And that's why I tell everybody it's not a black and white issue. There were so many different kids harassed and discriminated against there over the years. Hundreds of families. I'm talking not 50 families, not 60 families, hundreds of families. But I'm going to tell you one of the major things that really affected that plan getting passed through. When we rolled that plan out, there was a group called SARC of students that got together, which I was very proud of. I was happy to see that the kids have gotten together, the former students and the current students, and they formed a coalition, and I tell you, they came out with a ball of fire. And they pretty much linked the CCAP to SARC, and that killed the plan. So they felt like that group was way too radical. But the problem is that it's not that the group was radical. It's that the children have not been heard for years, and they had to crank it up, just like anything else. Right. Everybody knows every revolution that was ever led was led by who? Young people.
That's right.
So that's what we have. That's what's going on in South Lake. So now, the heat's been turned up, and they're going to have to do it at some point. They're going to have to do it.
Well, I'm
Or they're
glad
going to
that
face litigation.
Well, I'm glad that, and what they don't realize, and this is the thing, there are families that are there that are affluent enough to force litigation, because the thought is that, you won't have the financial resources. And I think it's really super important to say that children are faced with racism in their schools and in their community, and it doesn't matter the level of affluency. It doesn't matter if you own a home in South Lake Carroll, or if you're in an apartment in another school like Skyline, or you live in different parts of the city or different parts of the country. And I think that there has been this misnomer that people only experience racism, on certain scales depending on them. And it has nothing to do with their economic bracket or how they live. It's about the bigotry of other people. Eric, I want to thank you. I want to get you back so that we can keep people thinking about this issue, because I think what happens when you share your story, it motivates and inspires somebody else. It not only teaches them that they don't have to take it, but it also teaches them what they can do about it. So
you know what? I want to thank you for having me, and I want to say something real quick to that note, and I tell everybody, because a lot of our friends ask us, well, why would y'all live out there and deal with all that? Why would y'all want to be among? I said, let me tell you something. Anybody that lives in South Lake can live in any community they want to in DFW.
That's right.
And you shouldn't have to be forced to go somewhere else because of how other people think and feel, because they can't get out of their old bigotry ways.
I agree.
And you're not going to run me off anywhere. I'll die fighting.
Well, yeah, but they didn't know that Oak Cliff spirit is burning in your soul. You and your wife, they don't know about the OCT. Eric, I thank you. Tell my friend I said hi. This is Corey with the Black Tea Sip.
I will for sure. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Take care and keep up the good work. We're going to take a quick break. Go grab your cup. I'm going to fill it up. We're going to talk about Meghan Markle just finding her blackness. We're going to talk about Sheryle Underwood and Sharon Osbourne, two people that they thought they were friends and now not so much. Go grab your cup, babies. I'm going to fill it up in a minute.
Light nigga, dog nigga, faux nigga, real nigga, rich nigga, po nigga, house nigga, feel nigga, still nigga, still nigga. I like that second one. Light nigga, dog nigga, faux nigga, real nigga, rich nigga, po nigga, house nigga, feel nigga, still nigga, still nigga. OJ like, I'm not black, I'm OJ. Okay, house nigga, don't fuck with me. I'm a field nigga with Sean Cutlery. Go play the quarters where the butlers be. I'ma play the corners where the hustlers be. I told them, please don't die over the neighborhood that your mama renting. Take your drug money and buy the neighborhood. That's how you rinse it. I bought a BB12 engine. Wish I could take it back to the beginning. I could have bought a place in Dumbo before it was Dumbo for like $2 million. That same building today is worth $25 million. Guess how I'm feeling? Dumbo. Light nigga, dog nigga, faux nigga, real nigga, rich nigga, po nigga, house nigga, feel nigga, still nigga, still nigga. Light nigga, dog nigga, faux nigga, real nigga, rich nigga, po nigga, house nigga, feel nigga, still nigga, still nigga.
Do you want to find a stable job in a growing field? IT jobs such as network systems administrators, cybersecurity, programming, cloud and computer systems analyst are expected to increase 25% by 2022. Texas Premier Technology Institute offers training for top certifications such as CompTIA, Cisco, and Microsoft in less than 12 weeks. And if you're unemployed or underemployed, you may qualify for free tuition. Contact TPTI at 1-888-490-TPTI or check them out on the web at tpti.us.
All right, this is Corey with your Black Tea Sip. We just finished talking to Eric Ransom. He's in South Lake Carroll. If you've been following the news, and this has made national news, that they have formulated a plan. It's called CCAP, and then the board asked for it, and then the board would not implement it. And so we were talking to him. The brother's passionate. He's fighting the good fight. But here's the thing. We're talking about racism today. And if you're welcome to call in, 214-556-6239. You're welcome to call in and share stories or just talk about the things that you think are critical at this time. But right now, we've got a situation where we've got the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle. And she's talking about the royals being racist. She and Harry left the monarchy. Didn't just leave the UK, left the monarchy. And did an interview with Oprah. I don't know, something like 41 million people watched it. And then they aired it in the UK. What's funny is that the UK could not believe. They were horrified and absolutely awestruck, and then they thought it was hilarious about our commercials, that it was actually advertising drugs, because you cannot do that in other parts of the world and in the UK. You cannot say, tell your doctor that your right knee feels like it's about to fall off and take this drug. So you can't do that in other parts of the world, and they thought it was hilarious, but I've digressed. What is happening now? I told you something is happening in the world where, you cannot be a man going around Matt Lauer pinching Katie Couric's butt, and you can't really be a racist anymore without an expectation of being called out. And so Meghan Markle is there, and she's telling Oprah about a situation where Harry had a meeting, I believe it was with his father, Prince Charles, about the darkness of Archie's skin, the potential for those genes to retch back. Yes, I said it just like that. Retch back and pull some of his grandmother's coloring, or perhaps some deeper ancestral roots from the plantation. And they were concerned about that. And so so this conversation comes up about whether or not Archibald is going to have, because that's the baby name. They call him Archie, but the baby's name is Archibald. Go figure. And they talk about the fact that he's not going to get a title and he's not going to have security. And so you ask yourself, well, why? Well, here's why. Because, y'all are here for the coyisms, and let me not disappoint. Here's why. Because they have handlers. People told me, oh, Coy, you should watch The Crown. Like I didn't watch The Crown. Like they were the only people who watched The Crown. But, okay, I've watched The Crown. And I do see that they're isolated and they're in a bubble. But that's really no different than celebrities and other people of notoriety. They are isolated and they're oftentimes in a bubble. And so with that being said, you have people that don't necessarily understand what it means to be wrapped or clothed in this sun-kissed skin and what exactly that means. And I think that Meghan was one of those people. I know people have gotten mad at me. I had a chick named Meredith. She got so mad. She not only, I think she blocked me and unfriended me. I don't go on her page or anything, and the only time I communicated with her is when she says something to me, but block away, baby. And because here's my thing. I think Meghan Markle, is Tiger Woodsin, y'all. Not me, because I see it. But some of y'all, not all of y'all, but some of y'all are being Meghan Markle is Tiger Woodsin you. You say, well, what do you mean by that, Coy? I'm so glad you asked. What I mean by that is the fact that Tiger Woods, when they kept saying first black in golf to do these things and reach these heights and have this kind of notoriety, first black, he came out and said, I'm not black. I'm colorblasian or something. I'm probably butchering it because it was a made up term and it doesn't really exist. But what does exist is that Tiger said, I'm not with y'all until it always, the universe always brings it back. He then says, and you all have heard me say this before, when they put that green jacket on him, another golfer, and his name escapes me, said that because when you win the Masters, which is the Super Bowl of an all-star weekend of golf, right? And you as the winner get to pick your dinner. And so it was said that they were going to have fried chicken and watermelon. I don't know why people keep saying black people like fried chicken and watermelon, because I have met a lot of white people that love fried chicken and love watermelon. So I'm not sure where that comes from. I guess I'll have to do some research. But anyway, Tiger was offended. And then what did he do? He ran to us. He ran to the black community and he said, look what they're saying about me. And people were horrified and outraged. And I was like, well, but you need to go to the colorblasian people. That's what Meghan Markle has done. Meghan Markle has never talked about the black plight. She has never talked about the issues and the things that go on with blackness and how it is to live in this country and be considered less than, to be from ancestral roots where someone would decide that you're only 3/5 of a human and 1/16 of an ounce makes you black. Never has Meghan Markle talked about those things. She's never talked about the things that actually go on with black people. Not until 2020, because it was going on with her. See, Meghan Markle has been skipping through America's tulips passing and not living the black life experience. Not acknowledging her blackness. I'm not going to go as far as to say she denied it because I don't have that information. But you do judge a person by the decisions that they make. So Meghan Markle is an activist. I had someone tell me, well, I wasn't expecting her to be an activist. Oh, but she is. She is an activist for women's rights. Now, let me say this. Being an activist is difficult, because you are scrutinized and judged and your opinion is picked apart. So in a lot of ways, in many ways, it really is very significant to be an activist. Now I'm going to make another statement. If you want to be an activist of women's rights is a safe space. Yep, I said it. It is. It's a safe space. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you're an activist for women's rights, you get all women all around the world to kind of insulate you. Because there is a certain amount of power in that. You have attorneys that only deal with women's rights. What's her name? Oh, I can't think of her name. Every time a woman says that she's been touched by a powerful man, the woman shows up, right? You have Gloria Steinem with the burning of the bra and I Am Woman and Hear Me Roar. There is power and protection in being for women's rights. That power and protection does not exist fighting for black and minority rights. You just heard Eric Ransom say he was getting death threats while his father was dying and his wife's mother died. You know, they've had significant loss in their family while fighting not just for his children, fighting for all children, fighting for children of color, and wanting to work with children that are not of color to help them understand that what it is to be tolerant and accepting. And I'm certainly not saying you accept all people, because y'all know I'm not saying that. But I am saying that it is easier to be for women's rights. And so Meghan Markle talks about at just 11 years old, she was unknowingly and somehow accidentally thrust into becoming a female advocate. And she says this at the UN Women's 20th anniversary of the 4th World Conference of Women in Beijing. In Beijing in 2015. There's insulation and protection. So when she experiences racism, and you can say, well, maybe she was talking about being a black woman. She was not. Find it and send it to me, because there's no mention of her talking about being black until 2020. And her first mention of it is about May of 2020 when she spoke to her alumni class. Well, I'm sorry. She spoke to her alma mater. That's a better way to put it, of her high school graduating class after George Floyd's murder. It was safer because the whole world was talking about George Floyd's murder. I want to be very clear about what I'm saying about Meghan Markle. She is now asking us to accept her, to be a part of this thing, right? To rally in support of her. I just feel like you get what you get. But, I had someone say, well, what about her child? Well, what about him? Because here's the thing that I want you to take away from this. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry collectively have close to $60 million. Now, everything is not about money. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. You can't rise above racism through money, clearly, because she's been exposed to it. And the Ransom family is doing quite well, and they're exposed to it. So I'm not saying that. But this idea that he said if it wasn't for his mom's money, and this is a direct quote, Prince Harry said if it wasn't for his mom's money, he would not be able to afford security for his family because they pulled the security details once they decided they were no longer going to be working members of the monarchy. Well, when he married Meghan Markle, he was worth $40 million. Separate and apart of his net worth, he had another $13.8 million that Diana left him as an inheritance. And Meghan Markle was worth $5 million. So let's do some math. 40 plus 13.8 is 53.8 plus 5. That's $48.8 million. So I think I said 60. It should have been 40, 50. No, I'm sorry. I'm doing wrong math. 58.8. So that's $60 million. But when they fled Canada, because let's be clear, they left the UK, they went to Canada because that's still part of the royals' territories, right? And then they left and came to the United States of America. And people say, oh, she came to the most racist country in the world. Did she? Did she come to the most racist country in the world when they came back to America? Because now we have the death of George Floyd and things are rapidly changing, right? And she went to Tyler Perry and he rescued them. And then he gave them his, I guess part of his security detail to make sure that they were safe. And I'm sure it was scary and heart-wrenching and gut thrusting. I'm not excusing any of that. I'm not minimizing it. I'm saying I'm sure it was a really difficult place to be in. Absolutely. But what I also think is interesting is she ran to Tyler Perry. There has never been a mention of Meghan Markle ever dating a black man. We've never seen it. We've never heard of it. Nothing. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying they would have certainly talked about it. They certainly would have showed him had they found it. And since they've been on her like white on rice, I think we would have seen it. So here's my point about Meghan Markle. She found her blackness because someone told her as light as you are and as long as you've been passing, you're still a Negro. It's kind of like that Roots, the second or the third one, and Halle Berry's in it, and she runs into the church and she's, I'm Negro, I'm just like you. That is what Meghan Markle is doing. I'm just like you, but you're not just like us. And so now they say, well, Harry had to leave the family. And Oprah said, would you have left had it not been for Meghan? Here's my thoughts on that. Harry was always ready to go. Remember when he was all over the world and showing out in Vegas and doing all kinds of things? He's always been ready to go. And I think there was a certain amount of rebellion in him for him to decide that Meghan was the one. I'm not saying it's not genuine, true love. I would have no way of knowing that. I'm simply saying that I believe that they decided to go ahead and to leave. And I think he was with it because he said trapped. I think he wanted to be untrapped and he saw his way out. This is Corey with the Black Tea Sip. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Let's talk about Sharon Osbourne and Sheryle Underwood, Piers Morgan, and Meghan Markle. I'm not done, baby. Go grab your cup. I'm going to fill it up.
Hey, this is DJ K, host of the Universe of the 80s show, broadcasting live each week, Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Central Standard Time from FBRN Studios at Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas. Log on to www.universeofthe80s.com and fbrn.us to hear the best of the 80s, from Bryan Adams to Journey to Foreigner, on the Universe of the 80s every Tuesday night from 9 to 11 p.m. Central Standard Time, the Universe of the 80s.
On FishbowlRadioNetwork.com. Jump in.
Podcasters and internet radio hosts, it's time to take your show to the next level. Hi, my name is Sammy G, a 30-plus year radio broadcasting veteran, public speaker, and voiceover artist. And for the last 11 years, now the proud owner of Fishbowl Radio Network, the largest and most listened to streaming platform and radio station facility of its kind. 2 years ago, I created a proprietary system to help podcasters and internet radio hosts learn how to program their show like the pros, build a constantly growing and loyal fan base, and monetize their show. I teach this system every 6 weeks via Zoom to individuals all over the world. The Behind the Mic Masterclass is 6 one-hour classes that will finally take your show to the next level. Call today, 817-633-4880, 817-633-4880, and reserve your seat for the next Behind the Mic Masterclass.
Hello, I'm Bill. I've been in the financial industry for over 30 years. Now I share my passion for helping others become more financially educated. Why are so many people interested in what I share? Because like others, I've discovered who the financially free are and who they are not. But most importantly, I've determined how ordinary people can become financially free. If you're struggling with living paycheck to paycheck, drowning in debt while struggling to save for retirement, then I can get you the support you need. By joining the Mustard Seed Financial Literacy Series membership, you will get access to my financial courses. Hey, don't worry, I'm not going to teach you how to become a financial consultant, but I am going to show you how to get out of debt, how to raise your credit score, and how to put savings away for retirement. My courses are simple and easy to follow at your own pace. So join today at abetterwaytogrow.org. That's abetterwaytogrow.org. I'm going to show you a better way to grow.
Hello, we are It's About the Kids Incorporated. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that operates out of Dallas, Texas.
Our mission is to focus on the kids of today who will become the youth of tomorrow and the adult of the future. Today, tomorrow, the future.
Empowering the community one family at a time.
You can reach us at all social media platforms at It's About the Kids or online at www.itsaboutthekids.org.
Where we mentor a child, save a life.
Hi, this is Diane Marion Eunice, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. For the past 9 years, I have worked with over 300 couples in the areas of sexual health, communication, and conflict resolution. If you are interested in rebuilding connection and intimacy with your partner, please contact me today. I can be reached at 682-201-8175, or you can email me at diane@letstalkrelationships.org, or visit my website at www.letstalkrelationships.org. And remember, you can't heal if you refuse to deal.
Fishbowl Radio Network presents the first ever Fishbowl 24-hour Digithon right here on FBRN.US. Starting at 12 a.m. on Sunday, March 28th, FBRN.US hosts will be broadcasting for 24 hours straight to help raise money for Fishbowl, as well as bring awareness and exposure to small businesses that have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Small businesses have struggled throughout COVID-19. And Fishbowl wants to help you and your business by giving you free exposure on FBRN.US, which reaches millions around the globe. Want a part of the action? If you own a small business, come visit the studio or call in on March 28th from anywhere in the world to 817-633-4880. And you can be a part of the FBRN Digithon, where you can enter drawings and enjoy some food with the Fishbowl family. Be sure to log on Sunday, March 28th for our 24-hour Digithon on FBRN.US. Jump in.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job.
Tell me why. Why can't we live together? Tell me why. Why can't we live together?
Hello, all you melanated beauties, sun-kissed by God's lips. This is Coy with your black tea sip. I'm sipping power to pour you the truth. Go grab your cup. Let's fill it up.
All right, this is Coy with your black tea sip. And if you're just joining us at the noon hour, we have been discussing racism right here in North Texas, where and in South Lake Carroll, where the money resides. And we talked to Eric Ransom about a plan that the school board asked them, his committee, his board, to create, and then, the powers that be filed a lawsuit. It's now in mediation. And so we're talking about racism. And I really want to examine the levels of bigotry and racism because, it's like small, medium, and large. And so Meghan Markle, I believe that she just found her voice. And I really do think she found her voice for blackness because it has not been her thing, right? And we were talking about that before the break. And I honestly believe that. I honestly believe that she recently found out she was black because she's been gallivanting all over the United States and beyond, passing. And we can say, we can debate about whether it's intentional or unintentional, but it is passing. Because, and she can love who she wants to love, date who she wants to date, marry who she wants to marry. Because someone said, well, just because she married somebody white doesn't mean that she's not black. Well, no, you're right. It doesn't mean that she's not black. It means she doesn't think of herself as black. It means she does not identify as black. And you say, well, what about Kamala Harris? Well, I can't say that about Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris said, while they were steady trying to say that she was the first African-American and the first woman of South Pacific Asian descent, Kamala came out on the stage and said, I am a black woman. Boom. You say what you want to. This is how I identify. And that doesn't mean that she's not honoring her mother, but you don't get to choose in this country. And I dare say around the world. So if you are of mixed heritage, you don't get to choose. How people view you is how you're viewed, and how you feel like you integrate in the life experience and how you feel like you live in the life experience, then that is how you identify. Meghan doesn't identify that way. She does now. And let's see what happens. Because, see, here it is. It's kind of like a Kim Kardashian, like a KK thing. Now, KK was always down with the swirl. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But when KK started having them little brown babies, she said, oh, wait a minute, hold up. I don't like how they're treating black people out here in these streets. Let me do something about it because I don't want my children, and there it is, I don't want my children to be exposed to that. I don't want my children to have to live in a world where this is an acceptable treatment of black people. So let me use it in the, in KK's status, let me use my olive skin, because it's not really white, my olive skin to do something about it. But let me use my celebrityism, my financial resources. Let me use this to better the lives of black people so that my children will benefit. And that is where Meghan Markle is. She is like, whoa, wait a minute. Oh, they talking about my babies. They checking the ears. You know how they do, y'all. They're checking the ears to see if my baby's going to be dark-skinned, if that's going to reach back to my mother's ancestry. That is what happened. And now she's running to us. And so we've talked about all this in the first hour, but I want to talk about Piers Morgan. So for those of you that don't know him, let's get the picture up, Angelo, so that the people get to see Piers Morgan. So Piers Morgan is a disgusting looking man. No, stop. He's not a disgusting looking white man. He's a disgusting looking man that happens to be white. I mean, he's like, ugh. And so he went on a date with Meghan Markle. No, I'm not joking. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. I know y'all like, slow your roll. No, I'm not joking. They went on a date. And on the date, she actually, he put her in a cab after the date. He said she had 2 martinis and they had a couple of beers and they had great conversation. And then she left and went to a party. Now, it had always been said that she and Harry were fixed up on a blind date, but she goes to a party where Harry is. I don't know what the truth is, and lying somewhere in the middle is really the truth, but who cares, right? So she meets Harry, they hit it off, and then she and he have a private dinner the next night. And, you know, Piers Morgan is mad. Now I'm going to add something here. That, because y'all here for the Coyisms, let me not disappoint. Piers Morgan is probably like a medium-sized racist. Not a large, like a medium-sized racist, right? And you said, well, what do you mean, Coy? Well, here we go. So Piers Morgan is one of those white guys that can't believe a black woman would reject him. And so he's not a large or extra large, 2X, 3X, 4X racist. Certainly not in the global definition of white supremacist, because he was interested in her. But I'm saying he's a medium-sized racist because there's a little air of plantationism there. It's kind of a little bit of wish I was in Dixie going on there. Now, I'm saying he's a medium-sized because he does not see himself as a racist. And I dare believe that he would have done this had this been a Hispanic woman, if it had been Selma Hayek or Jennifer Lopez. He would have had the same reaction because a woman of minority ancestry couldn't really deny him in his whiteness. He's white, he's got money, he's got celebrityism, he's respected in some places. And so, you know, but when it comes to black and white, there is, I'm going to say it, I know I'm going to get in trouble, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because we sip power to do what? Pour truth. Well, here's the truth I'm pouring. Grab your cups, baby. Put it close. Here is the real deal. There is this air, this thought from the plantation that black women want white men and that black men want white women. Now, in some cases, that's probably true. And in other cases, people love who they love. They just fall in love. And it doesn't really matter about the color of skin. And I think that is the most acceptable love, right? But in other places, in the corners of darkness in our world, there is this thought that how dare this black woman not want me? And what fueled Piers Morgan is jealousy. He was the same dude that when the dude grabs your hand in a club and you say, no, thank you, and then he calls you a bitch. Right? He's that guy. But here's where it gets different, boys and girls, ladies and gents, dogs, cats, and everything in between. Here's where it gets different. He had the power to call her a bitch all over the UK. I believe that Piers Morgan is the catalyst that was driving the train of the tabloid character assassination of Meghan Markle. I also believe that he used that train to drive her right to her blackness. Because you see what I'm saying? I'm saying what Satan mean for good, God mean for evil. He helped her identify. He helped her find her black voice. And now she's going to be an advocate not just for women's rights, but black folk rights. Because now we know all skin folk ain't kinfolk. But now she got two little barren babies, one on the way. Because Archie's going to darken. He going to darken. This going to go ahead and reach back. I believe it's going to reach back. I mean, truthfully, I did pray and ask God to give him blue eyes, dark skin, and nappy red hair, but God didn't listen to me. So, because I wanted it to be right out there. No Queen Charlotte, where they're trying to make her nose thinner and lighten her up, you know, and saying that she was not of, she was from Angola. Y'all know where Angola is, right? Continent. So, and you know, I always say Africa is the continent because it's the continent where all civilization and all human beings derive from. So we don't really have to call it a name. We can say the continent because that's what it is. And so for me, I'm looking at all of this and Piers Morgan gets so upset he walks off. He can't take it. You know, a hit dog will holler. He knows he's behind it. And now because I told you something's afoot. He's being called out. Now, what do you do when your friend is being called a racist and you have celebrated this person and called this person your friend and gone on and on and on about who that person is, what is it that you do? Well, apparently you go on a talk show in which you've been on for 10 or 12 years. I can't believe this stupid show is on this long. And you make a stupid boondoggle statement. Let's get this ready, Angelo. The statement between Sheryle and Sharon Osbourne. Ready to go? Okay, so we're going to play this clip for you. This is from The Talk, and this is Sharon Osbourne defending Piers Morgan because now he's been outed and he's being called on all of the racist treatment and things he said about Meghan Markle.
I will ask you again, Sheryle. Yes. I've been asking you during the break. Yes. I am asking you again. And don't try and cry, because it should be...
She is a black woman, and to try to dismiss it or to make it seem less than what it is, that's what makes it racist. But right now, I'm talking to a woman who I believe is my friend, and I don't want anybody here to watch this and say that we're attacking you for being racist, and for that, if I articulated,
I think it's too late. I think that seed's already sown.
But that is why I'm saying for me,
Okay, if I'm understanding that people can't hear it, so we're going to restart it and we're going to play it again.
I want you to hear from me.
I will ask you again, Sheryle. Yes. I've been asking you during the break. Yes. I'm asking you again. And don't try and cry, because if anyone should be crying, it should be me. This is the situation. Yes. You tell me where you have heard him say, educate me. Tell me when you have heard him say racist things. Educate me. Tell me.
It is not the exact words of racism. It's the implication and the reaction to it. To not want to address that because she is a black woman and to try to dismiss it or to make it seem less than what it is. That's what makes it racist. But right now, I'm talking to a woman who I believe is my friend, and I don't want anybody here to watch this and say that we're attacking you for being racist, and for that, if I articulated,
I think it's too late. I think that seed's already sown.
But that is why I'm saying for me,
All right, so you hear this conversation go on between Sheryle Underwood and Sharon Osbourne. And you also hear the hurt and pain in Sheryle Underwood's voice because she feels attacked. She feels attacked on national television, right? She feels, and here's the thing that gets you right here. She says, I'm talking to a woman that I thought, past tense, not I think, is my friend. Because what she experienced was what many of us experienced since Trayvon and Tamir and Sandra Bland, and Michael Brown, and Michael Brown, and Eric Garner and countless others, is that when we become outraged about the treatment of people that look like us, the people that we thought were our friends are literally saying to us, well, what you upset about? Well, wait a minute. I mean, I don't think that's what that person meant. I mean, we've all heard that, right? But that's not what they mean. Like, you're too ignorant to know racism. It's certainly by the time you're Sheryle Underwood's age. She's dark-skinned. She's a heavy-set woman, You don't think she knows racism when she hears it? We understand it in a whisper. We understand it in a megaphone. We know it. And I think the greatest misnomer of people that are not of color is that they honestly believe that we don't recognize it, that we don't know what it looks like. And that is one of the greatest misnomers ever, is the fact that it can literally slap you across your face, but because they don't want to, they didn't hear the slap, they saw it, but they didn't hear it, so now it didn't happen. What we are experiencing in this country is an awakening. We are experiencing something that we have not seen. That people are literally picking sides. And you saw a complete debacle on the talk. Now let's talk about why Sharon Osbourne was so upset. You know, my granddaddy used to say, everything gravitates to its own kind. Everything gravitates to its own kind. If Piers Morgan is proven to be a racist, then guess what happens? All of his friends are considered racist. It's kind of like in Dallas, the Kappa that is a police officer that has been accused of murder. And you had Mike Mata, who was of the police force and said, he's the president of the police association, okay, and also a police officer. So he then says, well, everything that he has touched, everyone he's ever arrested, anything that he's been involved in, from arrest to crime and research and interrogation, anything that he has touched is tainted now. It's all fruit of the same poisonous tree because he's a criminal going around paying people to kill people. I mean, I think he paid for the first hit, paid $3,500, and the second hit he paid $6,000. I don't know why the woman was less than the man. Here we go again. Get Meghan Markle on it because this is about women's rights. You don't even get killed for the same amount of money as men. So it's that same thing. If Piers Morgan is a racist, then she is one too, even though it has not been said. Because again, a hit dog will holler. Because I told you it's levels of racism, right? We got small, we got medium, we got large. Extra large, 2X, 3X, 4X. So, and on. But, you say, well, how are you defining this? Well, I'm saying there was a man that they featured on the news who was saying some very unkind things about the protests that were going on in the city and around the world. And this one black woman who happens to work for Fire and Rescue said, hey, what you're saying is very disrespectful. And they ended up going back and forth and having an exchange. Well, he had to take a look at himself. He took a look at himself, if you ask me, after he found out what she did. Because he's retired military, Air Force. So she works in that kind of hierarchy in Fire and Rescue where they have rankings and, and following command and serving. So he saw commonality there, right? And then he finds out her brother is a physician. Doctor is a medical doctor. So these are different kind of black folk. So then they met for the first time since, Governor Hot Wheels opened up the state and people are getting inoculated. And so now they talk regularly. Now they've seen each other and they're going to keep it up. And they've developed this, friendship over the course of COVID because of protest rallies, right? Well, he would be small as far as racism because he originally had a lot to say about the protest. He originally had a lot to say about people and black people and the protest and what was going on. I'm sure he's one of those people about the flag. You're disrespecting the flag if you take a knee because the flag is about the military. The flag is not about the military. It's military people that are not standing for the flag. So stop. But he would be small. Medium size would be Piers Morgan. Likes black women. Openly lets people know he likes black women, but if he gets rejected by a black woman, watch out. And typically those men who actually like black women and demonstrate it typically have a problem with black men. Because remember, it was a black man that called him out on the show when he walked away. Now, I'm characterizing and I'm generalizing, and I know that I'm not supposed to do this, but this is my show, and y'all are here for the coyism. That's typically how life works, right? That's what we see. And I am simply saying that, then you have your large, Trump would be large racist. I used to think he was just an elitist, but now we know he's a racist. But Trump is really a different kind of racist, because Trump is going to go however the wind blows, and the wind is going to blow directly on him. So being with the Proud Boys and other white supremacist groups, that fueled his fire, because they were at the altar of Trump to worship. He would have celebrated black people if they would have done it, because look at Kanye. But I consider him large. And then you have the guy who runs the Proud Boys and the KKK, and then they have different levels, extra large, 2X, 3X, so on. Those people that murder black people, extra large, 2X. So we have levels, right? And bigotry comes in all shapes and sizes. And so what we're doing now is we're trying to identify white supremacists, and we say, oh, that's a racist. Well, we have to assign the tag, right? Small, medium, large, and so forth. Because what happens when we say, oh, that's a racist, and then someone comes out like Sharon Osbourne and says, oh, no, he's never made a racist comment. What racist comment has he ever made? Well, then it dilutes it. It starts to dampen and weaken it for the people who want it to be dampened and weakened. And so the argument of racism and how people are treated starts to quash a little bit, right? It starts to not get the steam. And so Piers Morgan says his agent would have been happy with the way he conducted himself. Well, anybody that's happy with the way he conducted himself is also an idiot. He walked off his own show. He quit the show because he was being called out for the things that he did. And it is going to come out that Piers Morgan was the train that was driving the tabloid against Meghan. Now, here's his defense, which is not a good one, because all he goes from is, kind of, if I have to term it, kind of like a Black Lives Matter movement, right on over to the Me Too movement. He's going to be in a movement. He just picked which one, but he's going to be in a movement, because he's either a racist or he's a bigot against women, because he fueled the fire against Meghan. Now, did he do it because of the color of her skin, or did he do it because he was rejected? Either way, this dude is in a movement on the wrong side of history, however we slice this pie. But where will Sharon Osbourne be? Where will she be? Will she be where we have to get her? When we have to take a BLM stance against her? Are we going to start picketing the talk? I think y'all should, because the show don't really have anything to say. But that's just my point of view. Nobody wants to hear that from me, right? That you should just do away with the whole show. And I don't know if we need to do away with the whole show, because Cheryl needs to keep getting her checks, because we like Cheryl, right? I'm simply saying that she has defended this man. To what avail? To what end? And what is she telling us now in her defense of him? I'm going to answer that in just a minute. This is Coy with the Black Tea Sip. We're going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back.
Like we always do with this time, I go for mine, I get to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. I go for mine, I get to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. I'm gonna get on the TV, mama. I'ma put it down. Hey, 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 hey. Welcome to the good life with the CLD. Won't even get pulled over in they new feed. The good life, let's go on a living spree. They say the best things in life are free. The good life, it feel like Atlanta, it feel like LA, it feel like Miami, it feel like NY, summertime shy. So I roll through good, y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood, Ferrari. And she got the goods, and she got that, I got to look, sorry. Yo, it's got
to be, cause I'm seasoned. Haters give me them salty looks. Lawrence 50 told me, don't hear, switch the style up. And if they hate, then let them hate and watch the money pile up. It's good like, go for mine, I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. Go for mine, I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. I'ma get on the TV, mama. I'ma put it down. Welcome to the good life. Where we like the girls who ain't on TV, cause they got more
than the models.
The good life. So keep it coming with the bottles. So she feel booze like she bombed at Apollo. The good life. It feel like Houston. It feel like Philly. It feel like DC. It feel like VA or the Bay or yay. Hey, this is the good life. Homie, tell me what's good. Why I only got a problem when you in the hood? Welcome to the good life. Like I'm new in the hood. The only thing I wish it. Welcome to the good life. He probably think he could, but I don't think he should. Welcome to the good life. 50 told me, go ahead, switch the style up. And if they hate, then let them hate and watch the money pile up. The good life. Come for mine. Yeah, I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. Come for mine. I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. I'ma get on the TV, mama. I'ma put it down. Hey. Have you ever popped champagne on a plane while getting some?
Nourished skin is healthy skin. Simply Ardor skincare products provides luxurious nourishment for your body. Indulge in rich scrubs and body butters and top it off with our sensational and unique aromatic lines of sprays and roll-on fragrances. It's simple and lovely. Simply Ardor. Love is real. Just spread it.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about racism. It's different shapes and sizes and colors of racism. And by that, I mean, when I'm talking about Meghan Markle and Piers Morgan, we were saying he was interested in her, and then she rejected him, and it was kind of like, how this darky gonna reject me, right? And I'm using that because Meghan never really thought of herself as darky, and the fact that Archibald could be a darky is like the whole thing, right? It's like kind of messed him up. And so here we are, trying to determine what's going to happen with his defender, with Piers Morgan's defender, Sharon Osbourne. What will happen to Sharon, and where does she fall in the array of, how we feel about racist and how we treat them and how we call them out? When we were in the 11 o'clock hour, we were talking to Eric Ransom, who's fighting for equity, not just equality, but equity in South Lake Carroll schools, where they're dealing with a lot of racism and trying to get policies in place and diversity and inclusion officer, right? So the network should have a diversity and inclusion officer. So now's the time for them to step in, and I'm very curious to see what happens for this person to step in and say, wait a minute, this show has got problems. Because as Kathy said, and she's a friend of this show and a friend of mine, she said Sharon not only exemplified racism and being a racist, but she belittled Sheryle on national TV. Well, what happened is you saw Sharon's true colors come out. Because she didn't like Piers being called a racist, and she didn't like the idea that someone may think of her as a racist. And so you saw her fighting Sheryle, not listening for an understanding, but simply demanding a response. And therein lies the difference. Because when you are looking to improve, you listen. You stop talking and you listen. And what happens is people keep talking because they're not looking for an understanding. They simply want a response because that fuels the argument, and they have a deep-seated need to be right. And that's what we saw unfolding on the talk. We saw a deep-seated need for Sharon Osbourne to be right. And she did that by attacking someone who considered them friends. I'm certainly not saying that we can't be friends with people that are not black, because that would be ridiculous, right? That's not how the world works. But I am saying that what we're seeing in this awakening that's happening all over the United States is all of the pointy hoods are coming off. And some hoods are small, some are medium, some are large. But we are seeing that people have these preconceived notions. And if you're asking me what would a small racist be, you know, when I talked about the guy here, I'm also saying the people who like the black people that they work with, but turn their nose up at the black people that work in the drive-thru at Burger King or McDonald's. Because preconceived notions and prejudices and acceptance of stereotypes plays a very critical role in racism. So there are some racists, like Donald Trump, who likes Kanye, but that's because Kanye has money and celebrityism and a certain amount of status, at least he thinks so. But he probably wouldn't, you know, be caught dead in other black spaces. So in our arguments, in our labeling, in our discussions, we need to be extremely careful of how we use racist, who we're pointing the finger at, because it does weaken our argument when they come back and say, but he was willing to date Meghan Markle. Until she rejected him. And then she became this spectacle in which you could point and wag a finger at, look at how, you know, the differences between she and Kate. And the only difference is that she was black and Kate's not. Kate will one day be queen, and Meghan Markle will be over here earning money with Netflix. All right. I think it's really important to have a conversation about Stacey Dash. You're like, why would that be important? Because I'm talking about the people who don't want to be a part of us and then they come back. Are we ready for Stacey Dash? All right, so y'all listen, because we need some levity now. Stacey Dash is always good for a laugh. So Stacey Dash was recently interviewed. Here she is.
I've lived my life being angry. You know, which was what I was on Fox News. You know, I was the angry, conservative black woman. And at that time in my life, it was who I was. And I realized in 2016 that anger is unsustainable and it will destroy you. And you know, what people don't know is that I made a lot of mistakes. And because of that anger, being a supporter of Trump, you know, has put me in some kind of box that I do not belong in. I don't hate anyone. I don't, you know, I don't know where that comes from. And, well, he's not the president. So I'm going to give the president that we have right now a chance.
She's going to give the president that we have now a chance. Thank you, Stacey Dash, for giving the president that we have now a chance. Woohoo! Thanks, Stacey Dash. Girl, bye. Stacey Dash has been a blight and a stain on black humanity since she stopped doing movies. When she couldn't make money with black folks anymore, she did what she had to do because she wanted to eat. And you know what? We cannot fault Stacey Dash for trying to continue to make turds. We can't. What we can say to Stacey Dash is, you've made your bed and lie in it. But the idea of supporting Trump is now doing what? It is forcing you to your blackness because there's no more money in it. And I'm really curious to see what happens, because Stacey Dash said she was the angry black conservative. Well, what would you be angry about, Stacey? Are you angry that you're black? Are you angry that you're a conservative? Are you angry because the only way you could make money was on Fox? None of which has anything to do with us. But she did completely, almost single-handedly, and without provocation, continue to fan the flames that would be in support of us not recognizing racism, not dealing with the equity and the equality of black people, so that Fox had some paid darkies to say, oh no, that's not the case at all. I mean, Stacey Dash now wants to be black again. I don't know what we're going to do with these people. What are we going to do with these people that want to be black again? Are y'all going to let them in? Because Stacey can't come to the picnic. She is not welcome at the family reunion. But we'll see what happens. We got, so you got the BLM movement, you know, and I want to say black equity because everybody is not a BLM supporter. And I would encourage people to go and look and see what Black Lives Matter says that really is all about, right? Like just do a deep dive, read past the initial stuff and just kind of get in there and see what it's really all about. So I'm going to say black equity movement, which encompasses dozens of other groups, right, around the country. But here's the thing. You got that movement, and then you still have the Me Too movement for women's equality and I guess equity because you want to get paid the same as a man. So you've got Pepe Le Pew, getting rid of him. Dr. Seuss, gone. Cancel culture. So we've alleviated the need for many white men anchors, you know, got rid of the Italian guy on the Chew. And even though he said, look, that may have been who I was, you know, 20 years ago, but I'm certainly not that person now. They were like, bye-bye, don't bring your Crocs around here anymore. And so Pepe Le Pew, boom, out. No more cartoon because he was, you know, he was all over the woman. And so as a child, I never saw him as a rapist, but I mean, I get it. You don't want little girls to see that and think that's what dating is all about. So I understand it's a cartoon. Who cares? Kids are not watching that kind of stuff anymore. They're watching Japanese anime. So, okay, bye-bye, Pepe Le Pew. But then you got rid of Dr. Seuss and people were horrified. Well, here's what I found out. Melania Trump tried to gift a library in Massachusetts Dr. Seuss books. And the librarian turned them down. She rejected them. She said, we don't want them because they are racist. Okay, that's when Melania Trump was the first lady. And this was a few years ago. It's not recent, of course. And I was wondering to myself, why was she trying to gift Dr. Seuss books? Well, then I found a picture of Michelle Obama reading Dr. Seuss to a group of children. Well, of course, if Melania sees that, then she thinks that's the way to go because imitation is the greatest form of flattery. But now you have Dr. Seuss books viewed as racist. The sales of 6 Dr. Seuss books will cease over racist and insensitive imagery, according to the business that preserves and protects the author's legacy, right? It says that the news comes Tuesday on the National Read Across America Day when schools across the U.S. celebrate reading Dr. Seuss. So March 2nd, the birthday to commemorate the author of Dr. Seuss, died in 1991. So this is, you know, how they do this Read Across America thing. It says these books portray people in ways that are hurtful and wrong. Dr. Seuss Enterprise reported that to the Associated Press. They are ceasing all sales of this book in only part of their commitment to a broader plan to ensure that Dr. Seuss Enterprises, that the actual catalog represents and supports all communities and families. And then the statement goes on, you know. So when Melania tried to gift these books and rejected, she didn't quite understand it because, you know, she probably didn't really understand because she didn't read it, but okay. So, and you couldn't take it to Trump because he can't read either. So she was outraged. And now you see all of the books that they are no longer using. And the reason is they feel like the imagery. So the actual drawings and pictures within the book depict people in a disparaging way. Now, here's the shocker for me. I didn't know that those little funny looking people, not the little girls and little boys, but the funny looking, I didn't know they were supposed to be black people. Did y'all know that? I had no idea that the takeaway was they were black people. So they have 6 books that they're no longer going to sell. Well, I was like, well, child, I missed that update. So now there's racism coming out of everything. It's pouring out of every orifice of the world, right? Of businesses, communities, schools. It's just oozing with racism. Now, It just happened, though. It just happened in 2020. Like it never happened before when we've been talking about redlining and black people not, and Hispanic people and brown people just not being able to get to get housing and to their children to attend certain schools. And now we're talking about reform in the judicial system, and now we're having the conversation, and the conversation has even exposed Dr. Seuss. Who knew? I had no idea that Dr. Seuss was a racist. So now what are we going to do about Charlie Brown? Peanuts. What are we going to do about that? Because we've all seen the little black boy sitting in a lawn chair on the other side of the table from everybody else. Or is it that the cartoon is more of a staple than the book? Because I know that there's been conversations about Peanuts and Charlie Brown, but I haven't heard them say they were going to take it off. And then they take it off and they bring it back. But it's kind of a staple around the holidays, is it not? So, I mean, it's a head scratcher, right? Because really and truly, who enjoys Charlie Brown? The parents and grandparents? Because my kids don't sit down and watch Charlie Brown, and I don't think that they ever did. I mean, they're watching Cars when they're that young, you know. Well, my 13-year-old watched it at school recently and said he just remembered so fondly how good it was. So do we need Peanuts? I mean, isn't it tantamount to the Dr. Seuss books? Because the little black boy in the Charlie Brown cartoons is clearly a little black boy on the opposite side of the table sitting by himself. Or is that off limits because it's such a staple? I don't know. But I do know that if we're going to call it out, then let's call out all of it. Get rid of it all. And then nobody will have anything to read and anything to see. And we'll continue to have these by the way conversations about race and culture, and discrimination and treatment. Because it's really not about the Dr. Seuss books that nobody knows. I mean, my soror, Edie Robinson, says she had no idea either. Like, we didn't know. Well, I certainly didn't know the little funny looking creature because they didn't look like any black person I've ever seen, so I didn't know. And I like the little books, Green Eggs and Ham. Horton Hears a Who. Who knew? So are we going to really stop and talk about all of these iconic authors and figures in history that were racist? Or just some, because we need to check some boxes? I seem to think we haven't quite gotten to the place where we're going to do some real things. Now, we may, we've got Kamala, who identifies as black and sees her blackness and embraces her blackness as black. You can say, oh, what about her white husband? Well, what about him? Who cares? I mean, she dated Willie Brown, so we can find a picture of her with a black man. So we're going to give her the pass. She's still coming to the family reunions, and she's invited to the picnics, okay? So we've checked that box. We've dealt with that. But I'm wondering what the legislation is going to look like, because we can't make people like us. We can't make people accept us. And the conversations that people are saying that we need to have are causing people like Piers Morgan to just walk off his own show and Sharon Osbourne to attack Sheryle Underwood. And Sheryle Underwood took it, very classy and dignified. But she took it. And there were others that tried to kind of speak up, but they didn't just call Sharon out and say, look how you're acting right now. And that's the real call out. And that's what we're not doing. We're not having those conversations. We're not doing the real deal. I mean, it's kind of like these police departments where they say it's an experiment. When I talked about in the 11 o'clock hour where I said they've graduated their first civilian class to have civilians show up at these really non-crime, non-emergency. I don't even understand that, because if someone's having a mental health crisis, it is an emergency, especially to them and their family members, loved ones. I don't quite get it together, but they said it's an experiment. And that's what we're seeing in this country. This is an experiment on tolerance. It's kind of an experiment on racism. An experiment on the takedown of racism. Except for the fact that I talked about last time, 23andMe, if you're doing that, or Ancestry.com or whatever, all those things where not really Ancestry.com, where they take your DNA and then they use it for research purposes, and they, don't really tell you that's what they're doing. It's kind of like that. It's like these subtle things are still going on. The COVID corner, I want to touch very briefly on the fact that a lot of people have reservations about the vaccination. I'm not telling you to take it. I'm not telling you not to take it. I am considering, and y'all know how I feel about it, to take the Johnson & Johnson. And the only reason I'm even having it bang around in my head is simply because at least Johnson & Johnson did trials in South Africa and Brazil, as well as United States and UK. And so you have ethnic data for your body's response to the drug. And when you say, well, why does that matter? In pharma, there are what they call the black box, where it says African-American people may have this particular reaction. Oftentimes, it's still prescribed anyway. But we talked about the UK, and I just want to briefly touch on the fact that the distrust that Americans have is not just from Tuskegee. It is in our treatment. Because in the UK, they don't allow for you to advertise drugs because it's profit-based. I think Johnson & Johnson made something like almost $500 billion in profit, not gross, but in profit. And so people that are concerned, before you turn your nose up at them, understand that we are not treated equitably in the healthcare system. My mother and I both had on our sorority sweaters, which clearly means that we at least attended college, whether we graduated or not, and we were talked down to, and I had to say so. It's that. It's the black physician who died of COVID, who was literally begging for pain medicine, and the doctor wouldn't give it to her because black people are perceived to be dope fiends in the making. Even if you're not on drugs, you have a propensity to become a dope fiend. That's why we're not involved in the opioid crisis, because they wouldn't prescribe the narcotics to us for fear that we're going to turn into drug addicts, even when you're in significant pain. So before we start to look at people and turn a blind eye to the distrust that's going on in the healthcare system, you need to understand where that comes from. And that's not necessarily Tuskegee in and of itself. There is a lot of things that go on in this world. For Black excellence, I want to end by saying there's a woman named Valerie Thomas. And Valerie Thomas invented 3D for movies. She went to Morgan State University, HBCU, but she never really got a chance to use her math brain until she went to college. She majored in physics and she worked for NASA. And I'm saying that because I think Valerie Thomas deserves the Black Excellence Award. She's one of those names that we don't hear of, kind of like hidden figures. But I want to emphasize the fact that even our HBCUs are considered less than, even by us. But you hear of all of these things that are created by people who came from historically black colleges and universities. Of course, you've already guessed that Piers Morgan is going to get the Dildo of the Day award. All right, this is Coin. That's my time. So we'll do it again. Same bad time, same bad channel. Right here, Fishbowl Radio Network. I'll see you again next week. Keep having real conversations about racism, but not this Dr. Cotton version. Let's really get out there. Let's have some Scorpio conversations about and sting a little bit. Because you know what? Even through the stinging, we can heal. All right. So I'll see you again next Friday. I hope you enjoyed your time with me. I enjoyed my time with you. And I'm out.
All's my life I has to fight, nigga. All's my life hard times like, yeah. Bad trips like, yeah. Nazareth, I'm fucked up, homie, you fucked up. But if God got us, then we gon' be alright.
Nigga, we gon' be alright. Nigga, we gon' be alright.